Occupy Wall Street protester Cecily McMillan will serve 3 months in jail for deliberately elbowing a police officer. It's the harshest sentence to come out of hundreds of cases of demonstrators, most of which were dropped. What's more, Cecily claims she was the one assaulted, and her aggression against the cop was mere reaction to him grabbing her breast. She also suffered a seizure while being detained at a protest to mark the 6-month anniversary of the Occupy movement in 2012. Joining us in the Now is political activist Cecily Maupin. Thanks for being with us. Cecily was found guilty. She could have gotten 7 years. Is this a win? 3 months in prison.
Well, it's absolutely not a win because Cecily McMillan was never guilty of anything other than being sexually assaulted. And the alleged assault on Officer Grantley Bovell was merely her elbow being thrown up as a startled reaction. So this is really outrageous. It shouldn't be Cecily McMillan, who's on Rikers Island, being locked away for the next 3 months. It should be Officer Grantley Bovell and all the other members of the NYPD who had a policy of brutalizing Occupy Wall Street protesters throughout the demonstrations.
Why couldn't she make that case in court?
Well, her defense was actually very limited. Certain videos, only one angle of what happened was actually allowed to be shown to the jury. Prosecutor Aaron Choi waged a very, in my opinion, dishonest prosecution of the case, and the judge very much silenced the defense. Key witnesses were not allowed to come forward. Numerous videos that could have been entered as evidence were not allowed to be shown. In fact, Officer Grantley Bovell's record of police brutality was not even allowed to be told to the jury. And now that 9 of the 12 jurors have come out and said they don't even want her to go to jail, because they felt that the trial didn't give them the proper evidence. So all kinds of things in this case just show a blatant bias. The whole case against her at the trial was actually based on the fact that she was a protester. All kinds of stereotypes about protesters and political people were played up. It was a big miscarriage of justice. And the only reason that she wasn't given a lengthy sentence was because after the conviction, there was huge demonstrations, huge outpourings of anger from the public. She may have lost in court, but Cecily McMillan won in the court of public opinion. She won because all over this country, people came to her side. People are supporting her all over the country, and I think the powers that be backed off. If they had sent her to prison for 2 or 5 or 7 years, there would have been protests that would have shut this city down. This city would have been rocked with huge demonstrations. They're very afraid of awakening what woke up in the fall of 2011 when thousands of people were in the streets making clear their demands. They're very afraid of awakening that kind of sentiment once again, and that very well could have happened if they had given her a lengthy sentence.
Could she take action against the NYPD for assault?
Well, that's the whole thing. You know, she very much has a case for a lawsuit. The fact that not only was she sexually assaulted by Officer Grantley Bovell, but again, she was also prevented from getting medical care. When she was having a seizure, she was unable to have medical technicians come to her. All kinds of brutality. The night she was arrested, November 17th of 2012, all kinds of brutality went on against protesters that night, and all kinds of lawsuits have been filed. And if Cecily McMillan hadn't been convicted, she could have very well won millions of dollars from the NYPD in a lawsuit.
What does this case mean for future demonstrations in America?
Well, I think the real attempt was to intimidate and scare people. That was the intention that Prosecutor Aaron Choi and others had. They wanted to frighten people, make them afraid to come out and protest. But the fact that so many people have come out in support of Cecily shows that it actually kind of had the opposite effect. You know, now people are really seeing what the NYPD is all about. You know, every day in this city, Black and Latino youth are brutalized and harassed by the NYPD. The NYPD officers murdered Ramarley Graham in his apartment, you know, in front of his family. You know, all kinds of crimes are being committed by police officers all around this city. And this case has really highlighted that and highlighted the hypocrisy of the courts. When the head of the IMF, Dominique Strauss-Kahn, was here in New York and accused of rape, all charges against him were dropped, even though there was medical evidence. And not a single NYPD officer who's brutalized Occupy protesters has had any charges filed against them. And that comes in spite of the fact that there's all kinds of video. You get on YouTube, you can see all kinds of video of police brutalizing Occupy protesters, throwing them to the ground, macing them in the face, committing all kinds of atrocities. Not a single one of them has been prosecuted. So it shows that there's a clear political case here. All Cecily did was throw up her arm in a startled reaction after being sexually assaulted. And yet they're going to put her in prison for 3 months. And in addition to that, she's going to be on probation for 5 years. For 5 years, she'll essentially be accountable to the state of New York for everything she does in her life. That's not justice. This is not justice.
Well, I understand Cecily is going to appeal this case. We will certainly be watching closely. Political activist Cecily Maupin in the Now.